Ravens flock. We just got off to probably one of the worst starts of a season that we could have imagined getting off to. We just lost in heartbreaking fashion, 27-20 to the Chiefs. We just gave up 27 points. Really, that should have been 40 points if we're being honest with you. This we just ended up in a similar heartbreaking scenario to what happened a few months ago. And even a few months ago in the AFC Championship game, I made the point because a lot of people during the AFC Championship game, they kept making this silly point about saying, "Hey, we only gave up 17 points. That's good enough." And I kept pushing back on that and I said, "Nah, man." Because number one, there was a call in that game that, in my opinion, shouldn't have been made that reversed the Rasheed Rice touchdown. We get if they don't call that, we would have gave up at least 23 points in that game. And also, that was the worst version of their offense. They had 6 or 7 games last year where they scored less than 20 points. So us holding them to 17 isn't impressive. It's not a flex. I don't know why so many Ravens fans were acting like that was somehow an accomplishment. Shoot, the Broncos and the Raiders held them to 9 points last year. And I see a similar scenario in this game where still a lot of people are acting like the defense did the best they could, and that's simply not the case. We gave up 27 points and it should have been 40, honestly. Salute to Marcus Williams. He did make a good play against Juju, but if Juju comes down with that ball, that's a touchdown. Clyde Edwards-Helaire dropped what was about to be a very wide open pass that would have been a touchdown too. This game could have gotten out of hand very quickly. And this defense just for whatever reason just doesn't have guys that can consistently, even though we have a lot of talent, it just doesn't seem like we have guys that can consistently make those game-changing turnovers when it matters most. Now, to be fair, Roquan Smith did get a interception. So that, yes, that was probably one of the few moments he looked good all game, because the elephant in the room is Roquan Smith is a liability in coverage, and I don't know why Ravens fans don't want to acknowledge it. I see a bunch of Ravens fans going super hard on Malik Harrison, and I'm not saying Malik Harrison shouldn't be held accountable because he did obviously give up a lot of big plays to people like Rasheed Rice, but the problem is so did Roquan. Roquan Smith, from the time he's been here, that's the elephant in the room that nobody talks about. He gives up chunk plays and coverage. And you can't tell me he's the best linebacker in football when he's a liability in coverage. You can't tell me that. And you can't tell me it's not his job to try to guard people because the best linebackers in football, they can cover. Salute to Trenton Simpson. Because even though Trenton didn't have a perfect game, he seems like somebody who could make more plays in coverage than Roquan did. Roquan just looked lost in this game for the most part. I really wish that Owe or Trenton could have came up with that pick against Mahomes at the end of the game. They instead let Mahomes out jump both of them in order to keep the clock rolling and allowed them to punt the ball, which was very frustrating. I don't know where Nate Wiggins was for the most part. It seems like I only saw him in special teams play, which is again very frustrating. This is a first round corner who we just drafted, but this is also why I would have rather us go get a tackle in the first round, even if that meant trading up. Even though I really like Nate Wiggins, if you're not gonna play him, that makes people question why did we go out to get him so early, especially when he was not the number one priority this offseason, or at least he shouldn't have been. The number one priority should have been the offensive line. Our O line is garbage. Do y'all realize it's been 5 years since we had a good O line? Do not tell, I don't care what stat you try to tell me or what PFF rating you try to tell me that would somehow justify and make it seem like we had a good O line last year. We did not. We have not had a good O line since 2019. This is embarrassing. Falele is a bum. They're trying to save his career to move him at guard, and he doesn't even look good at guard. Now, hopefully, he bounces back, but as of right now, it's not looking good. Makari looked lost out there against Chris Jones. Roger Rosengarten, now to be fair, he is a rookie, but at I don't want to go too hard on Rosengarten, but at the same time, Kingsley was also a rookie who didn't get as much help on the other side of the ball for the Chiefs, and he still looked halfway decent. Now he didn't play particularly well in my opinion. He gave up like a sack. He gave up a sack to us, and then he also, excuse me, Kingsley gave up a sack to us, and then he also gave up a couple pressures. But at the same time, it didn't look as bad of a situation because the Chiefs O line as a whole just held up well, whereas our O line did not. We looked like a complete mess. Now, to be fair, we could get it together and develop more chemistry as we go later into the season, but this is not. This is very concerning, man. This O line is complete garbage right now. And I'm seeing people trying to cape. They're trying to cape for the O line and say, "Hey, well, we shouldn't take this game too seriously because we had to play Chris Jones, so that kind of skews how we view the quality of this defense." Bro, half the teams that we gotta play to get to the Super Bowl are gonna have a guy like Chris Jones. Next week, we have to go play Max Crosby. What do y'all think's gonna happen next week? We gotta play Miles Garrett twice this year. We got to go play TJ Watt this year. We got to go play Micah Parsons in about 2 weeks. The point I'm trying to get across is we have, like, do y'all think the Chiefs are the only one with a dominant player on their defensive line? There's a gang of people, there's a gang of teams that we have to get through who have guys who are just as good, if not better. Another thing that concerned me was seeing the way our running attack looks so far. Derrick Henry, he had a mediocre game. He did score in the opening drive, but outside of that, he was a complete non-factor. And if hopefully now I'm hoping that things turn around and Derrick Henry still ends up having a good season. But if this game is any indication of what this year is going to look like for us from a running attack perspective, then that's really going to piss me off, honestly. Because games like this are why I want, like a couple months ago when there were rumors about us wanting to make a move for a running back, I said, hey, I would prefer Saquon Barkley. Games like this are exactly why. Because when you have an O line that's struggling, that's looking this pathetic, that still needs time to develop chemistry and just get on the right page, you need somebody who's more explosive, man. Derrick Henry's not explosive like that, man. He takes way too long. His acceleration is too slow. You need someone like Saquon who's more explosive, who's just quicker. It takes Derrick Henry too long to get to his top speed. And all these other teams, they know it. This is why their number one goal is to try to stop him before he really gets his feet moving. And then on top of that, whenever we do passing plays, Derrick Henry becomes completely useless. And this is another thing that I think a lot of Ravens fans overlooked when it came to Derrick Henry's time with the Titans, because the Titans did the same thing. Anytime they needed to get a pass off, they couldn't keep Derrick Henry in the game because he's just not that good of a pass catching tight running back. And a guy like Saquon, I think, would have been a better fit for these type of scenarios. Now, this doesn't mean Derrick Henry can't still have a good season, but if this is any indicator of what our running attack's going to look like, I'm going to be very annoyed. I'm not going to hold you. I'm going to be very annoyed because this is still another scenario where Lamar's still having to carry our team when it comes to the running attack. He still led our team in rushing. He still led our team in rushing. Lamar put up like 120 rushing yards in this game. And yeah, that looks good on paper. That's yeah, obviously that's part of his game, but I'm not trying to see Lamar at this stage of his career running that many times. But unfortunately, he still had to run that many times because number one, our O line couldn't protect long enough for any of these routes to develop. But then number two, he was the only one that could get going. Derrick Henry really didn't get going in that game. as far as the passing attack is concerned, yes, Lamar absolutely should have hit that touchdown. The the two opportunities we had to score before the final play of the game, Lamar should have hit those passes. The pass to Zay Flowers, that's a tricky situation. I do think it was just miscommunication that caused that situation, honestly, where he might have thought Zay was just gonna sit down and just wait for the ball, but instead Zay was maybe trying to indicate to him like, "Hey, I'm gonna continue running, to my left and your right, and just throw it over there." But Lamar might have just thought he was just gonna stop and sit right where he's at, and he tried to put it right in that spot, and it just didn't work out. So that's again, that's a tricky situation. But the play before that, where he just overthrew Isaiah Likely, that's unacceptable. I don't know why he threw it that. I don't know why he put that much air on it. I just don't understand. I don't know why he put that much air on it. Isaiah was in a position in the back of the end zone where he could have thrown it lower and it wasn't at risk of being picked off. But either way, beyond that, the last play of the game, as we all know, was just a heartbreaking way to lose. Like Lamar made the throw, like he improvised, he made the throw. Isaiah made an amazing catch in the back of the end zone, and it got overturned because literally his toe was on the line. It was definitely sad to see. Outside of that, nobody else on our team made a whole lot of plays on offense. Well, salute to Rashad Bateman. He did make that one impressive catch that was clutch late in the game. But again, this if this game's any indication of anything, it looks like this is going to be another year where Rashad Bateman still ends up being a non-factor for the most part. There were really like Todd Munkin and Lamar don't seem to have much of an urgency to get him involved. Like all the short passes they're throwing, it's only going to Zay and Isaiah Likely. And again, I don't look, if you're gonna keep Rashad Bateman, it would make sense to try to incorporate him more. Otherwise, he looks more and more like a bust and more like a waste of space, honestly. Like this is ridiculous. I was saying a couple months ago, hey, I would give up Rashad Bateman for Brandon Ayuk in a heartbeat, and scenarios like this are exactly why. Because now this is another game where he's just not involved at all. And I don't know how much I don't know how much blame we could really put on him at this point if we're not even looking in his direction most of the time. Mark Andrews might have already lost his job. On another note, I want us to have a deadly tight end duo, but this is an overreaction video, obviously. And if man, I ain't gonna hold you. It looked like Mark Andrews might have lost his job already, honestly. But again, we'll see because I don't know if Mark Andrews is even healthy right now, honestly. Because remember, he just got into a car accident 2 weeks ago, and then on top of that, he was just coming back from his injury that he had last season. So I don't know if he really was even like fit to be out there in the first place. But nonetheless, this game was just as frustrating as you could imagine. We gave up so many big plays. We couldn't. Our offense, just like in the AFC Championship game, it looked it just looked dysfunctional. We couldn't move the ball as smoothly. Whereas on the other side, the Chiefs are just effortlessly walking us down the field on a consistent basis, but we can barely get anything going. And now because we lost this game, now we're 1-5 versus Mahomes in the Mahomes Jackson era. So now we gotta go through another 3 months of all this talk about how we can't do this and we can't do that. And now maybe our only opportunity will be if we play them in January, but that's if we even play them. What if somebody else eliminates them? I know people saying this wasn't supposed to be a revenge game, but to me, it clearly was a revenge game. This was a great opportunity to right the wrongs that we made back in January, and we didn't right those wrongs. I don't even got much to say about the refs, man. Like I because as far as complaining about the refs, in my opinion, the referees are who they are at this point. and we had more than enough opportunities to make something happen. So I really didn't want to spend too much of this video even talking about the referees, honestly, because we still had the game in our hands and we folded on several occasions. But nonetheless, let me know what your thoughts are on the game in the comment section below.